What has actually improved in the last 24 hours? What have we learned in terms of the Brexit bill?
So at the level of the negotiators, there's been an outline agreement on the divorce bill. This hasn't been presented to EU leaders yet, and it hasn't sort of been presented in paper to the EU yet. So, you know, the people who need to sign off on this haven't actually got it in their hands yet. That will probably happen on Monday when Theresa May has lunch with Juncker in Brussels. You know, this is all part of a very carefully choreographed process. You know, interesting to note that there's been no backlash in the UK really from, you know, within the Conservative Party to this sort of higher offer on the bill. That's very important. You know, the domestic politics are very important. So what has to happen now is that there has to be an agreement on the wording of the commitment that the UK will offer the EU on what the Irish border will look like after Brexit. This is really tricky because each side has apparently mutually exclusive demands on what the border should look like. So they all agree there should be no border, but they don't really agree on what that means. And so that is a really tricky obstacle that needs to be sorted out. And in fact, I mean, it's interesting to see that the Irish Prime Minister was saying that, you know, it's evolving quickly. The Irish are in a bit of a dilemma because they also want talks to move on to trade. They don't really want to hold things up. But if the Irish Prime Minister goes down in history as the Prime Minister who allowed the island of Ireland to be divided again, you know, that is not going to be good for him.
Well, the DUP, Emma, in Northern Ireland, I imagine have got something to say about this as well. And 6 months ago, the DUP weren't really on anyone's horizon, on anyone's radar until they came to a deal with Prime Minister May and the UK government to keep her in power effectively and give her a working majority. The situation in the UK, is the domestic issue actually still really important, Emma?
Yeah, you're absolutely right to flag that. And of course, what the problem with the DUP's position is that Europe says, well, leave Northern Ireland in the customs union, leave Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland on the same sort of regulatory framework so that trade can continue freely across that border. But Northern Ireland says, well, no, if we remain sort of aligned with the Republic of Ireland, that means that essentially a border is erected between Northern Ireland and the UK. And the DUP's raison d'etre is to keep Northern Ireland totally integrated in the UK.